So, Secretary Hegseth, if the president, who regrets not signing that executive order to the then SecDef in 2020, asks you to seize ballots or voting machines in states during the 2026 election, will you stand up for the Constitution and say no, or will you salute and do his bidding?
Senator Elissa Slotkin of Michigan is not a casual questioner. She is a former CIA analyst, a former Pentagon official, and now a senator sitting across from the Secretary of Defense as the administration asks Congress for $1.5 trillion. She starts with numbers. 40% more than last year, gas in Michigan at $4.99, a war with Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz still closed to real movement. But she is building towards something darker. The 2026 election, voter rolls from 29 states, Detroit ballots, an unsigned 2020 executive order that, according to Slotkin, would have sent the military to seize ballots and voting machines. Then she asks Hegseth the question, will he defend the Constitution or salute?
Gentlemen, you're here to ask for $1.5 trillion, 40% more than what we gave you last year, $1 trillion. And I agree with the chairman of this committee that the world has never been more dangerous and complicated. And regardless of whether we disagree on the reasons for getting into this war, I think we can all agree that we want our military to come out of it safely and successfully and as soon as feasible. The military has taken, the administration has taken military action in 10 different places in the world in 15 months, more than any president in U.S. history. I think President Trump has really become a foreign policy president. And many of those operations, were on the news for a couple of days, but then the American public didn't feel them. And I think the difference with this war with Iran is that the American public is feeling it in their pocketbooks. Gas in Michigan is $4.99 today. The cost of fertilizer, of airline tickets, things that are real to people. Secretary Hegseth, the president said that you were most keen on this war. He said that you were the most gung-ho about it. I think despite us all wanting to come out of this successfully, it is hard to miss that we are at the stalemate, that we don't control the Strait of Hormuz because shipping is not getting through. And we can block what they're trying to get through, but nothing is moving and it's costing the American public. And I think that's a fundamentally different moment than the rest of the military action we've taken. Even in Middle East 101 class, we used to talk about and run war games on the Strait of Hormuz. It's a strategic geography that the Iranians have. And I think it's just concerning to me that we can try and tell the American people that it's going great and we're killing it, but until the Strait of Hormuz is open, I don't think we can credibly say that with any seriousness. I think the question I have for you, though, is future looking, and it's our 2026 elections. The president has been very clear. He said in the State of the Union that essentially if his side doesn't win, then the election was rigged. He said that before the 2020 election. He's asked for voter rolls for 29 different states. He just asked for Detroit's votes or ballots. And we know that in 2020, he wrote an executive order that he didn't sign that said to the U.S. military, to the Secretary of Defense, you should go and seize ballots and voting machines. A few months ago, he said that he regretted that he didn't sign that executive order. So the U.S. military has never been deployed. You incorrectly said yesterday that they were deployed during different elections. Governors deployed them under their authorities, but the federal government has never put the uniformed military at our polls during World War II, right after 9/11. We've never had to do that. So, Secretary Hegseth, if the president, who regrets not signing that executive order to the then SecDef in 2020, asks you to seize ballots or voting machines in states during the 2026 election, will you stand up for the Constitution and say no, or will you salute and do his bidding?
Senator, I didn't get a chance to answer the front part of your question, which, there was a lot of deferred maintenance under the Biden administration that needed to be addressed because the world was in chaos when President Trump was elected because of...
Please.
Well, again, that's
the most important thing. It's what's happening.
It's yet another gotcha hypothetical, which is your specialty.
It's not. We had an executive order
under the Biden administration in 2024.
It's not a hypothetical. I refuse to accept. You give that answer all the time. You and I have done this dance before. Get over it, okay? In 2020, he's the president, your boss, the guy you're performing for right now, told the journalists this year that he wished he signed that executive order to your predecessor. And your predecessor said publicly, thank God, we didn't actually go forward with it. What are you going to do? You're the guy here in the seat. It's not hypothetical. Tell the American people, will you deploy the uniformed military to our polls to collect voter rolls or machines?
Are you accusing me of performing? Because you're performing for cable news right now.
But Mr. Secretary, we have...
It's a hypothetical. By the way, in 2024, under the Biden administration, 15 states did deploy
under their governor's authority when their governors asked for it.
What did Joe Biden say about that?
That's fundamentally... I don't think anything, because he needed them for cybersecurity and for COVID. Trump did it too, under Trump. But it was not the federal decision. It was those governors of the states under their authorities, okay? It's never been done in our history. Please stand up for the Constitution. Do not send uniformed military to our polls.
Do you have a response to that portion of the question, Mr. Secretary?
I've never been ordered to do anything illegal, and I won't. That goes without saying.
Thank you for the answer. Senator.
The problem Hegseth left on the table is not whether he knows the phrase illegal order. He does. The problem is whether he would recognize the line before the country reaches it. Elissa Slotkin did not ask a broad ethics question. She asked about a specific scenario: a president, an election, ballots, voting machines, uniformed military, and the chain of command. A general answer protects the witness. A specific answer protects the country. Slotkin brought a timeline into the record. According to her, Trump suggested that if his side did not win, the election was rigged. She said he requested voter rolls from 29 states. She said he asked for Detroit's votes or ballots. Then she moved to the key document. According to Slotkin, an unsigned 2020 executive order would have directed the military to seize ballots and voting machines. That is why she rejected the word hypothetical. In a hearing, hypothetical is a shield. It lets a witness avoid speculation. But Slotkin's argument was that the record showed a pattern: a past election, a past document, a former president who regretted not signing it, and a future election where pressure could return. Hegseth's answer did not solve it. He went back to Biden. He called the question a gotcha. He accused Slotkin of performing for cable news. Then he cited states using forces under governor's authority. But Slotkin's point was narrower. She was not asking whether governors can activate personnel for cybersecurity or election support. She was asking whether the federal government should send uniformed military to polling places to collect voter rolls, ballots, or machines because the president questions an election. For viewers, this is not procedural noise. Imagine walking into a polling place and seeing the military there, not to protect people, but to take election materials because the White House disputes the result. That turns a ballot into a pressure point. The issue is not whether Hegseth can say illegal order. He can. The issue is whether he can identify the line before the crisis arrives. Institutions weaken when the people responsible for saying no refuse to say what no would look like. That is what Slotkin forced into the permanent record. Not a court order, not a redacted file, but sworn testimony in a public hearing. A Secretary of Defense was asked whether he would allow the military to be used against the machinery of an American election, and the answer was not no. It was, if it is illegal, I will not. That sounds firm. Until you realize he never said who gets to decide.